Try it right now. Think of a song from when you were 16. Just one. You already have one. Don't you? You can hear it in your head? You know the words. Now try to remember what you had for dinner exactly 1 week ago tonight. You can't. And there is a very specific reason your brain treats those two things so differently. It has nothing to do with which one mattered. Your memory is not the neutral filing cabinet you think it is. You imagine it as a hard drive somewhere behind your eyes, storing your life in the order it happened, occasionally deleting old files to make space for new ones. That is not how it works. Your memory is more like an editor, a biased, moody, opinionated editor who decided what mattered before you had any say in the matter. And the years between 12 and 22 got a permanent front row seat. For reasons your brain never bothered to explain. Researchers have a name for this. They call it the reminiscence bump. It shows up in every study. In every country. In every culture that has ever been tested. If you ask a 70-year-old to list the songs that mean the most to them, the vast majority will come from when they were between 15 and 25. If you ask them about the most important events of their life, most of those will also cluster in the same window. Their first love, their first heartbreak, the night they moved out, the song that was playing when it happened. Everything after that gets quieter, not less real, just less remembered. At first, scientists thought this must be about emotional intensity. Teenagers feel things loudly. Every heartbreak feels like the world is ending. Every crush feels like fate. So the memories from that time must be encoded more deeply because they were tied to stronger emotions. That was the theory for a long time. It turned out to be only part of the story, because when researchers actually measured how emotionally intense adult memories were, they found something confusing. A lot of adult memories are extremely emotional. Getting married? Losing a parent? Having a child? These are among the most emotionally significant moments any human experiences. And yet, the songs playing on the radio during them do not get burned into the brain the way songs from age 17 do. Something else is going on. The current best theory is a mix of three things. Your brain, your identity, and the fact that everything is new. Between 12 and 22, your brain is finishing its final major rewiring. The prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until your mid-20s. Neural pruning is still shaping which pathways stay and which get cut. The whole system is in a heightened state of learning. More open. More absorbent. More willing to lock things in permanently than it will ever be again. You are, biologically speaking, a sponge. And a sponge does not choose what it absorbs. At the same time, you are doing something you will never do again quite the same way. You are figuring out who you are? Every song you loved during those years is being used as a building block. Not just a song. A tool. You use music to try on identities. You use it to bond with the people you are becoming close to. You use it to signal to yourself and everyone else what kind of person you are. The songs are not just entertainment. They are pieces of the scaffolding you are building yourself out of. And once the scaffolding is built, those pieces stay embedded in the structure. The songs from your 30s are just songs. The songs from your teens are load-bearing. The third piece is novelty. Almost everything you experience between 12 and 22 is happening for the first time. First real friendship? First real fight? First road trip? First time you stayed out until sunrise? First time you understood a song lyric and felt like it was written about you specifically. Your brain is built to remember firsts. Every new experience gets flagged as important. Worth encoding. Worth keeping. By the time you are 40, almost nothing is a first anymore. Your brain sees the pattern and files it under familiar. It has already remembered 1,000 Tuesday dinners. It does not need to remember this one. Which brings us back to what you had for lunch 2 days ago. Your brain is not failing to remember it. Your brain is actively choosing not to remember it. Because it is redundant. Because it looks like every other lunch. Because there is no reward for storing it. Your memory is not a passive recorder. It is a triage system. Deciding constantly. Minute by minute. What is worth keeping and what can be safely discarded. The song from when you were 17 made it into long-term storage because the system thought it was building you. The Tuesday sandwich is a duplicate of 1,000 Tuesday sandwiches. There is nothing to build with it. But here is where it gets stranger. Music does something to the brain that almost nothing else does. When neuroscientists put people inside brain scanners and play them songs from their teenage years, the scans do not show a single memory area lighting up. They show almost every part of the brain firing at once. Motor cortex activates as if you are moving to the beat. Emotion centers light up as if the feelings are happening now. Not being recalled. Reward pathways release dopamine. Language processing runs the lyrics in real time. Visual cortex sometimes even generates flashes of scenes tied to the song. The song is not being remembered. It is being reconstructed. Whole. As if you are living it again. Almost nothing else in your life gets this treatment. Not conversations. Not meals. Not most books you have read or movies you have watched. Music has direct access to more of your brain simultaneously than almost any other stimulus. Which is why it can pull an entire year of your life out of a 2-second intro on the radio. A woman named Petr Janata at UC Davis ran a landmark study on this in 2009. He played people snippets of Billboard chart hits from throughout their lifetimes and asked them which ones triggered vivid autobiographical memories. Overwhelmingly, the songs that hit the hardest were from between ages 15 and 20. And when he scanned their brains, the same region kept lighting up, a part of the medial prefrontal cortex that is deeply tied to the sense of self. The songs were not just memories. They were being processed as pieces of who the person is. You are. In some very literal sense. Made of the music from that decade. This is also why music therapy works on people with severe memory loss. There is footage of Alzheimer's patients who cannot remember their own children's names sitting silently in wheelchairs. Unresponsive to almost everything. And then someone plays a song from their youth. And suddenly they are humming. Then singing. Then tapping. Then talking. Some of them come back to a version of themselves that everyone had assumed was gone. The music reaches something that the disease has not yet been able to touch. Neurologist Oliver Sacks called it the last part of the brain to go. He wrote about patients whose memory had been almost completely destroyed but who could still play piano pieces they had learned as teenagers. Perfectly. Without hesitation. The music had been stored somewhere so deep that the disease could not find it. Something about the way we encoded music in adolescence made it more permanent than almost anything else our brains ever do. But there is a cost to this system. The reason your memory rewards novelty and identity formation is because those things helped your ancestors survive. Remembering the taste of a berry that made you sick. Remembering the face of a stranger who threatened your group. Remembering which cave had the water and which cave had the bear. These were memory tasks that kept humans alive. Your brain was built to notice and store firsts. Threats. And identity markers. It was not built for the modern life you are actually living. Your job has 100 small tasks a day. And by the time you leave the office, most of them have already been discarded. Not because they were unimportant to your paycheck, but because to your brain, they look like every other Tuesday task. You remember your first day at the job. You do not remember your 500th. Same building. Same desk. Same coffee. Filed under duplicate. This is why time feels like it accelerates as you get older. Not because time is moving faster. Because your brain has stopped flagging as many days as worth keeping. A summer at 17 contains 100 first experiences that all get individually encoded. A summer at 42 contains mostly repeats of things you have already done. Which means, when you look back, 17 lasted forever and 42 disappeared. Your memory is not measuring years. It is measuring novelty. Which suggests something almost hopeful. If your brain slows down and remembers more when you introduce new things, then the way to make life feel longer, richer, more populated with actual memories, is to keep giving your brain new material, new routes home, new foods, new people, new skills, new places, new songs. You will never again have another decade where the whole world is new by default. But you can deliberately create new experiences that force the brain to encode instead of discard. You can trick the system, at least partially, into treating your 40s or 50s or 60s the way it treated your teens. This is not a life hack. It is closer to a way of staying alive to your own life. Because here is the last thing. The reason those songs from your teenage years still work on you is not just because your brain locked them in. It is because they carry a version of you inside them. When you hear that song, you are not just remembering it. You are, for a few seconds, becoming the person you were the first time you heard it? That kid still exists somewhere in your brain. Their taste, their hope, their heartbreak, their absurd conviction that this song was written for them specifically. You do not have access to them any other way. But when the right 3 notes hit, they are there, whole, not as a memory, as a presence. Which means the reminiscence bump is not just a quirk of neural development. It is a way your brain kept a copy of every version of you. And whether or not you asked for it, it will keep pulling those versions out for the rest of your life. One song at a time. Until there is nobody left inside your head to hear them. You will forget most Tuesdays. You will forget most meals. You will forget the name of the manager 3 jobs ago and the shirt you wore to a party in 2019. But you will remember every single word of a song you loved when you were 17, and that is not because that song was better than everything that came after. It is because your brain, without asking you, decided that 17-year-old was worth keeping.